Okay, so today I'm going to try to cram more information into a 20-minute segment than I think I ever have in my life. Basically, what I'm starting to do here is I'm completely rebedding the Revenant. I haven't been happy with its bug hole ability. It's still teasing me a little bit. So one of the things I was going to do from day one is, this thing comes with a screw in the back and a screw in the middle, or this is the front and rear screws. I misspoke there. It comes with a screw in the back, a screw in the front, and there's a hole here for a middle screw. As this was originally set up for a single shot flat bottomed or full bottomed action. I milled a hole in here, and I'm going to have to extend that hole back a little ways, and I'm going to probably wreck this screw. But in the meantime, I didn't like this long threaded portion up here, so I drilled in another screw up here. So all of the shooting that I've done so far with this gun has been just with these two screws. And one of the things I've held in reserve was to add another big pillar right here. This is the pillar that came with the gun when it was built. This is the pillar that came with the gun when it was built. There was nothing for this center screw. Unfortunately, he never did use that for anything. So now I just machined a front pillar. The only thing I can't show you is that this pillar right here is very, I would say, it's not that it's unconventional, it's that I need to explain that I use my pillars differently than most people do. Most people presume or assume or build their pillars such that they're designed to prevent compression. They think that you need to get them in there flat, don't compress when you tighten down. I'm an exact opposite of that. I believe these pillars act to keep the gun from tearing up out of the stock, to transmit vibration, to produce a lock between the two. This pillar I specially made. I took a piece of bar stock, I turned a bunch of grooves on the outside, and I bored it through the middle, and I cut the bottom. But it's mainly designed to combat uplift more than anything else. So that's just my little thing on pillars. Now, I just figured while I was doing this I was going to show a few of the things, because as I've said over and over before, this is not a teaching channel, but I believe it to be a learning channel. And to make that work, that means that I'm going to take you on the journeys with me as I go goobering around doing weird stuff. Hopefully everybody can learn from it. And if not, then, as I've said before, is go watch something that interests you more. But this interests me. And so what I've done here is I've made my epoxy in two containers. I need to separate them for two reasons. Number one, they're going to start heating and cooking. This 20 minutes is going to barely give me time. Number two, one of these is going to be thickened and one of them is not. Because I'm going to do a few things here that have never really been done before. One of the things that I've talked about before is that I want to do is that I want to have a method for putting more information inside of a gun stock than is currently available. And the way I've come up to do this, which I've never tried, I'm showing you my folly right up front, is I'm going to muck down a piece of paper. Now this one here is just an experiment, so it's not going to give you all of the, but when I build a gun, I can either stamp or inscribe or incise or etch a whole bunch of information onto the barrel. Or if it's a gun that's being built, I can do something. This is just the latest of a series of things that I've thought about that I think might work. One of the things, because I want to send out more information than is currently available on a gun. So here I decided what I'm going to do is test it on this gun. What I've done is I'm epoxying in a slip of paper that has some information on it. Now the things that I know are important, because I don't know if this is going to work at all. The things that I know that are important are that this thing be not lettered with pen, not lettered with pencil, not lettered or printed on an ink style printer, This is printed on a laser jet, and it's color fast. You can soak it with water, you can soak it with, it looks like, epoxy. So, I've put that in there with some information on it about this build. So, that's one of the things that I wanted to show you is, don't know if that's cool or not, but it's cool to me. Now, some of the other cool things that I really feel that everybody out there is going to learn something from this particular episode, because I got so much crap mixed into here. Another thing I did is, this is a rebed. This gun was bedded well before. The back here, I haven't really changed anything, so my angles, my dimensions, everything are unchanged. And I wanted to show off this cool little tool. A guy on the internet showed this off as a tool that he uses for inletting. I've used this inletting tool to rough up all of the old stuff here. Didn't really change materially any of the... I actually roughed it all up and then I scraped it out lightly with not this sort of a scraper, but a scraper. It's actually a right angle scraper. So now I can take this stuff away. I just wanted to show you that particular inletting tool. So, next thing is, now that I've got this all roughed up, I roughed it up, I wiped it out, and now I'm going to take the loose epoxy, the wet epoxy, the untagged epoxy, the epoxy that has no glutamates in it, no additions whatsoever, and I'm just painting it on everything. You'll notice that I don't have, this is not going to be a typical bedding job, this is just a skim coat. So I'm just going to paint it on all of this roughness that I did, because all we're doing is re-ascertaining a surface. We don't need any filliners, we don't need any thickeners, we don't need anything to keep it from goober, and we're not going to goober it out. This is only to fill these little hairs that I cut with that very sharp tool that well, actually, I'll use the guy's name that got the idea to me, because he's a bright gun building guy. His name is Alex Wheeler, and don't know that he wants to be associated with me in any way, so I'm not endorsing or unendorsing or anything. It's just that he might be a person who, if somebody ever wants one of these tools and doesn't know where to source it, go to Wheeler Accuracy and he'll be able to tell you where they are. So that's just an unsolicited, that's where I got the information from thing. Because, as I've stated before, I pass on as much information as I'm comfortable with without using people's names, and I share with you my experiments and the things that I do. Now, just because I have the brush wet, I'm going to go ahead and mop this recoil lug area. So now that gets set aside, and this packet over here gets the cabosil added to it, because this is the actual bedding compound that I use in around the recoil lug. This has to have some body because I want it to build up the sides and not just go goobering down the barrel channel. So this I add some thixotropicity to. That's the term for gelling something so that it doesn't sag. Viscosity is the thickness or the consistency. You all know about viscosity of oils and things like that. This is quite viscous, but its thixotropic properties are still quite low. When it runs like that, that means it's not very thixotropic. So what I want it to do is change from honey to peanut butter. And that's accomplished by the use of something called aerosil or cabosil, which is the scariest stuff in the world because it's fumed silica, which immediately invokes silicon, which immediately invokes silicovolcanoconiosis, lung disease, miner's lung. We're all going to die from ingesting this stuff because you open the package and it blows all over and goes right up your nose. But I guess it's extremely safe. It doesn't even have a MSDS sheet. So here we go. Now we've got something that will stand and stay and shake, and now I start putting this in. And I'm rushing a little bit here. I'm doing kind of a bit of a kludgy job because I need to cover a bunch of different details about this particular method. There are things about this. This is not a tutorial on how to bed. This is just showing you what I am doing today in the latest work we're doing on the Revenant to try and make it shoot. Because frankly, it's not shooting the way I want it to right now, and I think it can benefit from a better bedding surface. So, there I've goobered the recoil lug in, and I want to go through some of the things on this. First thing I'm going to do is scrub off. I covered it with Kiwi shoe polish, and this happens to be Kiwi neutral shoe polish. It's neutral in the sense that it doesn't change the color of the leather that you put it on a boot. Doesn't make it dark, doesn't make it light. So now we have to remove this. We remove every bit of it that we can. The other things I've done to this are, and I'll try to show you a little of this as I'm polishing away here. I've taken the whole recoil lug and rounded it off, cut it down to where it's just a tiny little skiff left. Got the extra hole drilled here. Now I'm polishing this down until it shines. It shines like a pair of army boots. Because I don't want any play in this whatsoever. Now these are pieces of all thread that I put tape on and brought them up to such a size that they just slip fit into these holes. Each one is sized slightly differently because I've got this front hole made with a little bit more clearance than the other ones. None of this is important to you, but they are sized such that they slip fit right into the hole. Whoops, wrong hole. Always trouble when you put it in the wrong hole. So, we need to make sure we get the right hole here so that everybody happy. Now this is ready to drop in. I'm hoping I didn't skip a step somewhere here because this is so dangerous, just doing stuff off the cuff on the fly. But here what we want to do is get this thing to set under its own weight. And another thing that I've done here is I'm cheating really hardcore on my support system here. The reason I can get away with that, and the reason I'm doing it this way on the fly and freehand and just jamming crap in here, is because I took a caliper previously and I set the critical dimension. Whoops, that I didn't expect. This stuff I've got going in here. But that's okay, as long as you see what I'm doing. It's not that important that you see the details of how it works out. So I've got a shim jammed in here. Now I'm going to jam some more shims in to bring it up to support that barrel channel. And the reason I could make this work after flattening it out is because of the tightly fitted screws, so I've got no side to side to speak of, and I have taken this dimension right here and recorded it. So this dimension here is, I'm close to it right now, it's not exact, but that's okay. I can set this aside and let it mellow for a minute while I show you some of the other things I wanted to show you. Don't know that I need to really set it so much aside. Anyway, that was quick and dirty. Thrown in there, it's sitting, everything is juicing in there. I'm going to go ahead and let this drop slightly differently for a second while I'm talking. Turns out that shim felt just a wee bit too thick. So I'll stick in this shim. There we go. We are setting stable just with some raw, rough parts that were laying around here. Now I got a ton of extra Acker glass here that I don't know what I'm going to do with. But I wanted to show you a few other things. Well, I was down on this is where I'm going to diverge completely from what I'm doing here with the Revenant project. I just wanted to show putting in that informational paper inside and a quick and dirty rebed job. But I ran down to the range today, and I was down digging, not digging through the dirt, but as I drove by, I got a glint of something, and I knew it was bullet pieces and parts. So I pulled over in my little weenie machine I was driving around, and there's a bullet jacket laying there from a 50 BMG, but this is the part that really interested me. Here's this thing laying there that I soon deduced was the nose of a 50 BMG bullet. A 50 BM, and here's the thing. All through this testing, I've been assuming, I should say, a certain thing. I've been assuming that this bullet was built like this. I've been assuming that this is the picture they have on Hornady's website. The perfect tip, they go on and on and on. And this is the actual 50 BMG right here. They show a bunch of velocities, and they show, you know, 2860. I've been talking a lot about velocity in the BMG series. And all of this testing is taken on a 36-inch barrel. There's a few things that we need to know. Cartridges of 750 grade match A max, 1.0. All of this description here and all of these descriptors are absolutely supposed to be indicative of this 50 BMG bullet, which looks like that right there. So I've been laboring under the assumption that that bullet is quite finely balanced because it's a lead core with a little tip in, a little aluminum tip. Well, come to find out, I found this thing laying down there in the dirt, and I went, that ain't no little weeny aluminum tip. That's a big old hunka. So, I mean, that's a chunk of aluminum with a bunch of goofy machine steps on it, and it sticks way back into the bullet. So I took this. I'm going to have to apologize to my son because he made this when he was in the Marine Corps as a gift to send to all of us, and it was awesome, and it is awesome, and this will make it more interesting to him. I just know him. So I went out and milled this thing off, and sure enough, there's that tip extending way back into there. Now, I don't know on this camera if I'm getting a good shot of that or not, but I'm just here to tell you, I'll wiggle that around a little bit. I'll tip it in the light, maybe turn it up like this and see if I can get a closer shot of it. This is really fascinating. This is really interesting. That tip is not the super tight and super short thing that I had presumed that it was. This is a big old naga. It could be in there crooked. It could be these. So I've got two things that I'm considering here. The bullets maybe are not quite as consistent that I had presumed. Maybe some of my inaccuracies are from that thing flopping, or not flopping around in there. Obviously it's encased in lead. But the chances of getting lead all up around that thing and getting it, the jacket pleats to fold in around it, this changes my perception of this bullet quite dramatically. So, there's something to think about. I've ordered in a whole bunch of lathe-turned solid match bullets. And, here we go back. Looks like I've got some time to kill here because that went smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and play with this while I'm talking. So we're trying to iron out the inaccuracies in two systems. One of them being this screen door, which had screen door. Forget what I just said. One of them being the Revenant. It hasn't shot as well as it used to. It hasn't shot as well as I think it should. And so I'm going through. I've outlined all the different changes we've made on it. Now this latest one is that I'm bedding it in completely differently than I have in the past. I've changed out the recoil lug. I'm going to do a different type of bedding job. I'm adding the other screw. What else is there to say about the bedding? I guess not really anything. So the important things that I wanted to show you were the fact that I set this, because this is a rebedding job. I set this. Let's see what my target is here. At this point it's still running a wee bit high. My target is lower than this. So I'm going to play with this now and put this in here and get it to hold correctly. Turns out that this little tool that I'm using is not all that. It's not the perfect tool. I'm going to try some different ways of propping this in here. I figured I could just whip up in here and prop a bunch of crap in here and right there on video stabilize this and make it good. But turns out I wasn't quite that good. So this is going to take just a little bit more jimmy jacking around to get this thing to sit in here under gravity, completely stress-free, the way I want it to. So I'm going to turn off the video, get after this and get it right so that it is laying in here completely flat and completely stress-free under its own weight. Those are the key things that it must be. I don't want any stress on this action. And it won't have when I'm done setting it up. So I'm going to shut this down, and hopefully we learned something from that episode, if nothing else, about those bullets. Maybe we will move forward to get some good accuracy out of one of the 50 cals. Thank you.